The tallest mountain on earth is Mount Everest. And the highest peak of Mount Everest reaches a whopping 29,000 feet. Now, for perspective, if you're interested in airplanes, a small airplane, you know, the Cessna, the very small airplane, reaches a maximum altitude of 13,000 feet. And when you are on an aircraft, a regular jet, passenger jet, and you're traveling from place to place, long distances, the average altitude of a passenger jet is 30,000 feet. Mount Everest, the highest peak in Mount Everest, reaches 29,000 feet. And because it's the highest mountain in the world, this mountain attracts various experienced and skilled mountaineers and mountain climbers. Many people who enjoy climbing mountains, and not just enjoy it, but who are skilled mountain climbers, they seek to make the trek and to be able to reach the top, the peak of Mount Everest. And many people have attempted to do so. Some of them have failed. Many people fail. It's not easy. It's difficult. But some people have been successful. One of those who was successful, and in fact, the youngest person to ever make the climb successfully, is a man by the name of Edward, known as Bear Grylls. You might have heard of this name. He's British. He used to be the host of a famous show on the Discovery Channel called Man vs. Wild. And so he was the youngest person, 23 years old, Bear Grylls, and he successfully made the trek up to Mount Everest as the youngest person. Now, because the climb to Mount Everest is so difficult, why is it difficult? Because there are extreme weather patterns. Experts say that, of course, there are sub-zero temperatures when you're climbing that high in that region, that sometimes winds can be up to 200 miles an hour. The more you go up, the less oxygen you have. There's a lack of oxygen. The risk of avalanches, all of this make death a real and present danger for those who try to climb. In fact, if you read about Bear himself, Bear Grylls, he almost died. He was hanging unconscious from a rope. He almost died. And mountaineers and mountain climbers will tell you that without the help of professional guides, they are known as Sherpas. Without the help of a Sherpa, a professional guide, the trek up to Mount Everest is virtually impossible. You can't do it by yourself. People hire these guides who know the mountains very well. They know the circumstances, the context, and they trust them. They attach ropes to them, and they follow their every direction. Everything they tell them to do, they do. And that's the only way that you can be successful in this climb. Even if you're very experienced, you need the help of the Sherpa, the guide. How well we do in this life does not only depend on our own skills, on our own abilities, but it largely depends on who our friends are, who we keep company, who we receive guidance from. Because our friends, our company, sometimes are the closest people to us. Sometimes our friends can be even closer to us than our family members. You might reflect on your own life and you find that in your life you may have a friend or more than one friend who is very close to you. And friends, dear brothers and sisters, they can either make us or break us. And we can either make them or break them. This is why it's really important to reflect on who our friends are. I read a story once about a young man. He says that it was his first year in high school, 9th grade. And a couple of weeks into the academic year, the school year, he says, I was walking home from school. And as I was walking home, I noticed on the other side of the street, there was a young man, a young boy, and he was also walking on the street, and he was carrying all of his books, heavy load of books in his hands. And as he was carrying them, he tripped, he fell. He fell, his glasses flew off, the books fell everywhere. So he says, I noticed that a couple of people, they passed by him, they completely ignored him. So he says, I ran across the street. I ran across the street, and I picked up his glasses, and I gave him his glasses. I picked up the books, I gave him a hand, I lifted him up. So he says, he looked at me surprisingly. He says, I asked him, I said, you look like you're new here. So he said, yes, the boy told him, he said, yes, I just moved here about a month ago, and I'm new here at the school. So he told him, where are you going? He says, I'm going home, back home. So he asked him, it's the middle of the week, why are you carrying all of your books with you? So he says, he didn't answer me. So he says, I started to walk, and then afterwards I stopped, I turned around, I went back to him. I said, listen, if you're new here, we're a group of friends here. Oftentimes we spend the weekends, we play basketball, we play sports together, we hang out, we go camping. If you'd like, you can join us. Hang out with us. This weekend, let's play, let's play basketball and let's hang out. So he says that weekend he came over and we began to build a friendship. We started to hang out, right? And over the course of several weeks and months, we became very, very close to the point that we became best friends. He says that the day for us to graduate high school came. And that friend of mine, the one who had fallen over with his books, he was chosen to be the class speaker at graduation. It says, so graduation day came, we got ready, we were dressed up, we were in our cap and gowns, very excited, it was a happy day. It says we were all sitting, the entire class was sitting, graduating class, and then he went up to the stage in order to give the graduation speech. He says, I was sitting down and I was looking up at him and I was so proud of him. So proud of the accomplishments he had made. And so proud of our friendship. I was reflecting on these past 4 years and how close we had gotten with one another. He says he went up and he began his speech. And in his, the traditional manner, he began to thank people in his life. He says he began the speech and he started off, he said, I want to begin by thanking my mother. And he began to say the story of his life. He said, when I was young, very young, my parents, they split up. And so I grew up with my mother. And it was a challenge. We moved a lot from place to place. I moved several times. Sometimes we would move in the middle of the school year. We would move to a new town, a new city, a new state. And he said this kept happening over and over. I was the only child. Things were difficult. I wasn't really good at making friends. I felt lonely. He said, but there was a day back in 9th grade where the situation had gotten really difficult for me. And then he pointed and he said, I want to thank someone else that's here. He pointed to his friend who was sitting in the audience. He said, I want to thank my friend so-and-so because he saved my life. The friend who was sitting in the audience, he was shocked. What do you mean? He's never heard this. His friend has never told him this. What does he mean, I saved his life? So he began to explain. He said, in my 9th grade, a couple of weeks in to the school year, I had had enough. Life was very difficult for me. I didn't have any friends. I found myself going nowhere in life. So he says, one day, I decided that I was going to put an end to it all, that I was going to take my life. He says, I packed up my locker from school. I took all of my books and my belongings, and I was walking home. And I was thinking to myself, how am I going to put an end to all of this? He says, as I was walking, I tripped over a rock. I fell. I was really upset. I was so distressed in the middle of those thoughts. And then he said, suddenly I looked up and I saw someone bend over and put his hand out to me. Someone came and helped me up. He picked up my books for me. And then he turned to me and he said, you want to spend some time together? You want to hang out over the weekend? Want to play some sports? I said, you know what? Let me give it a try. So I went the first week and then the second week, and then we became best friends. And had it not been for my friend, I would have probably not been standing here before you today. Our friends, they can either make us or break us. And this is why our traditions, they tell us that it's very important that we choose very carefully who our friends are. Our teachings, they tell us that we should test and inspect our friends, that not everyone is worthy of this valuable title, the title of a friend. Not everyone is worthy of this title. That being a friend is something sacred, it is honorable, and that we should test. You know, in our lives, when you are making a big purchase, oftentimes you don't just go and make the purchase blindly. If you're buying a car, for instance, or you're buying a house, before you sign and before the money is transferred and everything goes through, what do? You inspect that object. You inspect the house, even if it looks good from the outside. It could be on the waterfront, it looks good, whatever it may be. What do? You go and you inspect that house in detail because you want to make sure the foundations of the house are intact. You want to make sure that there are no hidden problems. You want to purchase a car, you go and you test drive the car. You check the car, right? Similarly, in our life, we have to be able to test people before they become our friends. We inspect who we bring into our life and to consider a friend. Why? Because that relationship is a very important relationship, dear brothers and sisters. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in the Quran, He says, الْأَخِلَّاءُ يَوْمَئِذٍ بَعْضُهُمْ لِبَعْضٍ عَدُوٌّ. Allah says, on the day of judgment, al-akhilla, friends, on that day, they will become enemies and opponents. They spent their life together in friendship, but on the day of judgment, they become enemies. Why? The Quran says, إِلَّا الْمُتَّقِينَ, except those who are pious. That friendship that was based on piety and goodness and morality, that friendship remains, not just in the hereafter, but not just in this life, but also in the hereafter. But if that relationship, that friendship is not based on God consciousness, on taqwa, on righteousness, on goodness, then what happens? It will be a form of regret for us, not just in this life, but in the hereafter. The Quran gives us another example. وَيَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ. The Quran says, literally, the day in which the oppressor will bite on his hand. Biting on your hand means what? It's metaphoric for regret. It's regret. Sometimes you might see it in some cultures. Someone, when they regret, they bite on their hand. وَيَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ. He or she will regret. يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِ اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا. I wish, oh how I wish I had accompanied the Prophet. And then he says, يَا وَيْلَتَا لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أَتَّخِذْ فُلَانًا خَلِيلًا. Woe upon me, had I not taken so-and-so as my friend. لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ بَعْدَ إِذْ جَاءَنِي. Why? Why is that regret? Why do I regret not taking so-and-so as my friend in my life? Because he or she misdirected me. They pulled me away from the truth. They turned me away from what was right. And this is why our traditions, they emphasize that it's important for us to be careful. Who are our friends? Our character develops and is revealed not just by the company whom we choose to have, but by the company who we avoid. There are certain people that are worth taking as friends, bringing close to you in your life, and there are certain people that are not worth it, that it is better for you to avoid, to turn away from. It's very important. Sometimes when we think about friends, we think about the characteristic that allows me to befriend someone is, for instance, a shared concern, a shared hobby. This person likes to play soccer, I like to play soccer. That's a point of connection, let's be friends. This person likes to watch, for instance, comedy movies, I like comedy movies. That's a point of connection, let's be friends. This person's style is like this, or their style is like that, so is mine, let's be friends. Those are all important elements. With a friend, you want a point of connection. You want to be able to engage in conversation on similar topics. You want to enjoy similar interests. But that should not be the priority. That should not be the thing that we look for first and foremost in a friendship. There are other priorities. There are other conditions and attributes. And this is why it's very important. And I want to share very briefly with you tonight 3 principles of friendship, brothers and sisters. These principles of friendship are important for us, not just for our relationships overall, but in particular for our friendships. Number 1, the first, is don't have too many friends. This sounds odd, huh? Because we're social beings. We think of us as social beings, the more friends, the more connections, the more people I have in my network, the more people I know, the more acquaintances, the better, right? But this is not necessarily the case. Today, in an age of social media, the idea of more friends and more followers and more connections is great. I have 500 friends on Facebook or on Instagram. I don't know if Facebook is still a relevant thing. Probably for about half of the people here. The other half, they probably don't even know what Facebook is, right? I have this number of friends on this platform. If I have more, this is even better. I'm always looking for more friends and more followers, more connections. So it sounds kind of odd. But the more friends that we have, this doesn't necessarily produce a better environment for myself or better circumstances for myself, for my social life, for my intellectual life, for my spiritual life, for my emotional health. The key is to find even 1 or 2 friends who are genuine. Even if you have 1 person who is your friend, just a single person, or 2 people, or 3 people, or a handful of people who are genuine friends. What do we mean when we say genuine friends? We mean that that person, they look out for you. That person is with you in good and bad times. Sometimes there is a person, you consider them your friend, but they are only with you in good times. When you face difficulty, when you face financial burden, when you face health issues, when you face other emotional issues, they are nowhere to be seen. They're too busy for you. A true friend is someone who is there with you in good times and in bad times. Someone who you can rely upon. Someone who is trustworthy. Someone who is honest with you. A true friend is not a cheerleader, not someone who always tells you, yes, of course. It doesn't matter what you're doing, they always encourage you. They tell you, yes, good job, what you're doing is good. That's not a true friend. A true friend is someone who encourages you when you're on the right path, when you're doing well, and they discourage you. They are honest with you when you're not doing so well. Al-Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, he says, اتبع من يبكيك وهو لك ناصح ولا تتبع من يضحكك وهو لك غاش. Very beautiful. He says, acquaint yourself and follow the one who in his attempts to be honest with you might sometimes make you cry. But do not connect with the person who will make you always laugh, but they are deceiving you. What does this mean? This means that a true friend will be honest with you. That true friend will encourage you when you're doing something right. But if, God forbid, you're doing something wrong, they're not going to encourage you. They're going to prohibit you. They're going to give you honest advice, good advice, even if that advice makes you upset. You might become upset, but they're looking out for you. Because friendship is not just about supporting whatever a person does. I care for you. I care for your health and well-being in this life, and I care for your health and well-being in the hereafter. If I am a true friend, I want to be with you in this life, and I want to be with you in the hereafter too. I don't want us to separate in the hereafter. So a true friend is someone who is honest, someone who is reliable, someone who is trustworthy. When we examine the lives of the prophets and the imams, the prophets and the imams were the most famous people. Everyone knew them, and they knew a lot of people. But were all of them their friends? No, they had a small circle of trustworthy people. People who they could rely on. People who they could depend on. People who were absolutely honest and genuine and God-conscious and righteous. Those are the people who the imams considered to be their friends. Otherwise, the imams, they were pleasant with everyone. They were good with everyone. But not everyone was their friend. There was a select group of people who the imams themselves considered to be their friends. So number one is that we are very careful. We should look for quality over quantity, dear friends. Quality over quantity. And I especially tell this to my younger brothers and sisters. It's important. I get it. It's important for you to have friends. As you're growing up in school, you're going through your early stages of life, you want people around you. You want to be able to spend time with people. You want to be able to share things with people, right? And sometimes we think the more friends I have, the more social, the more popular I become, people will come around me, more people will smile, more people will connect with me. But that's not necessarily a good thing. Be very careful with who you consider your friend. It's okay even to have just one single friend as long as that friend is someone that is good. Someone that has a positive influence on your life. So this is number one. Choose in your friendships, choose quality over quantity. Number one. Number two is spend time with those who are wise and those who are worthy. When you're going to spend time with people and you want to develop friendships, ask yourself several questions. Number one, ask yourself, does this person remind me of God or not? When I say, does this person remind me of God, I don't mean that every time we sit together, he or she says, God, God, say Subhanallah, say Alhamdulillah. No. It means, do they carry themselves in a positive way? Are they righteous? Are they someone who prioritizes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala over other things? The hadith, they tell us that the best of friend is the one who reminds you of God. Because in reminding of God, they remind you of your responsibility. It's easy to get carried away. Sometimes we get together with friends and it's easy to get carried away. But if you have a friend who during that moment reminds you of God, who keeps you on the right track, then this is a good person. This is a person worthy of your time. This is a person worthy of your relationship. Does this person do the right thing even when it's hard? We all have to make decisions. We decide, do I do the right thing or the wrong thing? Sometimes it's easy to do the right thing when the situation is simple. But it becomes much more difficult to do the right thing when it's hard. Right? We all struggle with this. It's difficult for me to remain, for instance, to maintain a halal form of income and a halal lifestyle when those around me, my acquaintances, my business partners, my colleagues, they're all engaging in immoral behavior. It's more difficult for me because there's pressure. There is social pressure. There is peer pressure, right? More difficult for me. If people are engaging in immoral activity, it becomes much more difficult for me to do the right thing because there is pressure on me. Do you have a friend? Does this person do the right thing even when it's hard? Because that's what's expected of us. It's expected of us to live good and positive lifestyles, not just when the stakes are not high, but even when it's difficult. Is this person honest? Is this person trustworthy? Can you rely on them? These are important questions. How does this person interact with others? Do they uplift others? Do they inspire others? Or do they put them down? This is an important question to ask. Examine. See how they speak with their family members. See how they speak to their parents. See how they speak to their siblings. This is important. It's important. Because it's not just about how this person treats me. How this person treats others around them is reflective of how they will be with me as well. If this person is honorable, if they're uplifting others, they're encouraging others. If when they speak to their parents, they speak in an honorable way, in a dignified way, they are respectful, then this is a good sign. But God forbid, even if this person is good with me, if they are disrespectful to their parents, that's a red flag. If they're yelling at their parents, they're yelling at their siblings, they're yelling at others, they're putting people down. If they're putting their employees down, for instance, it's a bad sign. Probably not a good friend, because that person might treat you the same way. That person might influence you. Even if they don't treat you that way, they may influence the way you start to interact with your parents. Sometimes we find situations where you yourself, you might be very respectful of your parents, but then you have a friend who is disrespectful towards their parents, and slowly it starts to rub off onto you. You hear them yell at their mother, and slowly you find yourself, now I'm yelling at my mother as well. Sometimes this happens. It doesn't happen directly, brothers and sisters. The influence that we have on our friends and the influence that our friends have over us, it doesn't happen overnight. It's not immediate. Sometimes we don't even sense it. It could take weeks and months and years, and then we begin to realize, oh, this person has impacted me either positively or negatively. So ask yourself, does this person inspire others? Are they respectful of others? Do they stay close in good times and in tough times? It's important to spend time with those who are wise. Again, those who are honest. Al-Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, he says, the best of friends to me, the best of friends to me is the one who gifts me my faults. Imam al-Sadiq is ma'soom. He has no faults. But here, he's teaching us a lesson. He's telling us that the best friend is the one that is always honest with you, even if it hurts sometimes. Even if that honesty hurts. But how? See, the Imam uses a special word. He says, the best friend of mine is the one who gifts me my fault. When you gift someone something, you do so with what? You do so in a positive way, with a good intention. You don't gift someone and you're frowning, no. You gift someone and you're happy. You gift someone and you're smiling. You gift someone with a good heart. The Imam says that when my friend gifts me my faults, it means that he or she does so with the right intention. First of all, they are merciful, they are compassionate. They don't break you down, they don't humiliate you. They tell you what is true, but they do so in a positive manner because they seek your well-being. So we have to ask ourselves, who are these people? Who is this person that I consider to be my friend? Are they someone who is genuine, who is honest, who is respectful, someone who is trustworthy, someone who is reliable? These are important questions to ask ourselves. This is number 2. And finally, number 3 is not only to seek good friends, but to be a good friend towards others. Oftentimes when we talk about friendship, we talk about what are the attributes and the characteristics of a good friend. Who should I make as my friend? What kind of qualities and attributes should I look for in a person that I want to consider my friend? Rarely do we speak of what the other side, that I should also be a good friend towards others. Because friendship is not just transactional. Friendship is not just about what I can get out of the other person. Friendship is also what can I offer to the other person. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Yes, dear brothers, please try to come as forward as possible. May Allah bless you, inshallah. Sisters, if you are able to also, as much as possible, inshallah, try to come forward because more people are coming from the back and we want to be able to accommodate everyone. Sallu ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. So number 3 is to be a good friend towards others around. Be the type of friend that you want others to be to you. Be the type of person, and this goes beyond friendship, by the way, dear brothers and sisters. As a general rule in life, how we deal with others, how we interact with others. If I expect people to be honest with me, I should be honest with them. If I expect people to respect me, I should respect them. If I expect people to be kind with me, I should be kind with them. This is a general rule in life. It doesn't make sense just for me to expect goodness from others, but I am not ready to offer goodness towards others. Doesn't make sense. Be the type of person who encourages your friends, who inspires your friends, who uplifts your friends, who discourages them when, God forbid, they do something wrong. Sometimes we get together in a gathering with friends, and suddenly that gathering turns into a gathering of gossip. We begin to speak about people. This person did this, that person did that. This person looks like this, that person looks like that, right? And gossip, I mentioned a few nights ago, gossip is one of the most dangerous activities that we engage in. It's destructive. It's devastating. If, God forbid, I am with my friends and suddenly someone begins to gossip, I have to be that friend who stops them from gossiping. Because I care. Because I don't want this group of friends of ours to, God forbid, engage in an act of indecency or immorality or to do a sin. Don't encourage it. Don't encourage bad or immoral language. Don't encourage or engage in hurtful language. Sometimes some friends among themselves, I see this all the time, among themselves, they may engage in harmful language towards one another as a form of a joke. They may call each other nicknames, right? The Quran, by the way, it warns us against this. It says, وَلَا تَنَابَزُوا بِالْأَلْقَابِ. Do not call one another with bad nicknames. Even if you're joking amongst yourselves, do not call one another with bad nicknames. Because the Quran says that a believer is someone who uses positive language, not negative language. Don't insult your friends. Don't hurt their feelings, because sometimes maybe they might not say something to you. You might be sitting in a group, and everyone is joking with one another, and you might say something hurtful or harmful towards your friend in a joking manner, and that person might take it to heart. It might break their heart, but they don't say anything to you. They don't want to embarrass you. They don't want to say anything in front of the friends. They don't want there to be judgment. So we have to be careful. We never know. Sometimes in the words that we say, we break someone's heart. And we have to be very careful with our words. I read a story once about a young boy who had a problem with cursing and hurting others. And so his father, he would often speak to him. He would try to encourage him to avoid using that kind of language. And it would not help. Young boy would get angry and he would start to curse and he would start to say bad words. So his father, one day, he took him to the backyard. And he told him, listen, I want you right now to take these nails and this hammer, and you see that fence in the back of the house? Every time that you decide that you want to say a bad word, but you refrain, you stop yourself from saying a bad word, I want you to nail a nail in the with the hammer, nail a nail into the fence. And when the fence is all full, then I'm going to give you a prize. Young boy said, it's good. Sounds like a good deal. So the first day, 24 nails into the fence. Following day, a few less. Following day, a few less, until after a few days, the entire fence was full of nails. So the father, he came to his father and he said, the whole fence is full of nails. So his father told him, okay, I promised you a gift. Here is your gift. Now, I want to give you another gift. For every time that you are able to avoid, I want you to pull out one nail until all of the nails are done. So that took a longer time. Took a longer time until after several weeks, all of the nails were pulled out. He came to his father, he told him, it's all pulled out. So the father told him, good job, here's your gift. But I want you to tell me something. I have a question for you. He said, yes, what's the question? He said, do you see a difference between before and now? So the son, he looked at the fence, he said, yes, father, the fence is full of holes. The father turned to him, he told him, it's the same with our language. It's the same with our words. Same with our words. Amir al-Mu'mineen is a beautiful statement. He says sometimes the tongue is sharper than a dagger, than a knife. You know, sometimes you get hurt. Sometimes you get hurt, right? Physically, you get hurt. You might cut your hand with a knife. And you get hurt, it bleeds, you put a Band-Aid on it, you put ointment on it, and then after a while, it heals, right? The physical injury, it heals. Sometimes our emotional injuries, they do not heal. They do not heal as easily as our physical injuries. So we have to be very careful how we speak with one another. A good friend is one who uses good language, who uses positive language, who uplifts others. And thus, dear friends, we have to be very, very careful when it comes to our friendships. We want to be able to be friends with those who will ensure our success, not just in this life, but also in the hereafter. I want to be able to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment and say, my Lord, I did not have any regrets with my friends. They were good people. They were people who encouraged me. They were people who, when I did something wrong, they taught me what was right and they encouraged me to do what was right. They were people who kept me on the right path. And I was also a person who inspired others, who was good towards others. I don't want to be among those who stand before God and regrets and says, oh, how I wish I did not befriend this person because they turned me away from the truth. I want to be a good friend. And I want to have good friends in my life. Al-Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam had the best of friends. You know, the hadith says that the companions and the friends of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, they were the best of friends and they were the best of companions, even some of them being better than the friends and companions of Rasulullah. They were so genuine. They were so honest. They were so righteous. They were those kinds of friends that you want to have. Those friends who you can rely on. Imam Hussein gives them the option between going or staying with him. And they knew full well if they would stay with him, what would happen. Yet all of them, none of them gets up and leaves. They all turn to him, they say, Ya Abu Abdullah, we were with you in good times. We were with you in times of ease. And now, during these difficult moments, we would never abandon you, Ya Abu Abdullah. Allahu Akbar. Such great friends, so loyal and so devout. These companions and friends, they were so devout and they were so loyal that on the day of Ashura, when the army of Umar ibn Sa'ad attacked the camp of Imam Hussein, the Bani Hashim, they rose up. The family of Abu Abdullah, they rose up. Young men, his brothers, his sons, his nephews, they rose up. They were built with courage. These are the family of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Courage runs in their veins. Bravery runs in their veins. They stood up ready to go out and to meet the enemies. The companions of Abu Abdullah, they said, by Allah, we will not allow Bani Hashim to go before us. No. As long as we are alive, we will do everything we can. We will use every breath and every drop of blood for us to protect Abu Abdullah and his family. And so they stood up one after another. One after another, they valiantly went out onto the battlefield. Take the example of a man by the name of Muslim ibn Awsaja. Allahu Akbar. Muslim, this great individual, this great friend of Abu Abdullah. Muslim ibn Awsaja was very courageous. Imam Hussein had identified him as one of the banner holders of his army. One of the leaders of one of the flanks of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. Muslim ibn Awsaja, he goes out and he fights courageously. He fights with all of his might and with all of his power. The tradition says that after the dust settled, Imam Hussein looked and he saw Muslim ibn Awsaja had fallen. Muslim calls out, Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah. He calls out, peace be upon you, ya Imam. Imam Hussein, along with another great man, Habib ibn Madahir, they go rushing towards Muslim ibn Awsaj. They see that Muslim is fallen, he is injured, he is taking his last breaths. Imam Hussein alayhi salam, he embraces Muslim, he tells him, Muslim, may Allah bless you for everything that you have done, for your enormous sacrifice. Habib ibn Madahir, he turns towards Muslim, he tells him, my dear brother Muslim, may Allah bless you and reward you. My dear Muslim, if it had not been for the fact that I know that soon I will be accompanying you, I am coming after you, I would have asked you for your final will. Muslim, in that moment, he looks at Habib, he says, yes Habib, I have a final will. He points at Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, he says, my final will is for you to protect this man, do not leave him alone. Allahu Akbar. That was Muslim. Then you have another family. This is a family, companions and friends of Aba Abdullah. You have a young man by the name of Wahab al-Kalbi. Wahab was there with Imam Hussein along with his wife and his mother. They were a Christian family that had accepted Islam. They had accepted the message of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and they had joined with him. Wahab and his wife, they were newlyweds. They had just gotten married, They had just gotten married. Wahab, he comes to Aba Abdullah. He says, my master, Aba Abdullah, give me permission to go out onto the battlefield and to fight. When his wife hears this, she says, oh Wahab, how can you go out onto the battlefield? You will go out now and be killed. And we just gotten married. We have just gotten married. We have not yet even spent enough time together. At this moment, the mother of Wahab, she comes to him, she says, Wahab, my dear son, I want you to go out and to defend Aba Abdullah and his family. Go out. Wahab, he goes out and he fights valiantly, courageously he fights. He is injured. He comes back to the camp. He turns to his mother. He says, my mother, are you pleased with me? His mother says, no, Ya Wahab, I will not be pleased until I see you sacrifice yourself for Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. He goes back onto the battlefield. As he is fighting on the battlefield, he hears from behind him a sound, a cry. Someone is yelling to him, oh Wahab. He turns around, he sees his wife. She is coming onto the battlefield with a pole, and she's calling out, oh Wahab, my dear husband, fight as much as you can. Fight until your last breath. He turns to her, he says, my dear wife, only a few moments ago you were telling me not to go out onto the battlefield, and now you are encouraging me to fight until I die. What happened? She says, oh Wahab, do not blame me. I heard the cries of Aba Abdullah say, Ala hal min nasirin yansuruna, Ala hal min mu'inin yu'inuna. Is there no one to come to our rescue? Is there no one to come to our help? I heard the women, the daughters of Rasulullah calling out, who is going to protect us? This broke my heart. Oh Wahab, Allahu Akbar. The tradition says that Wahab fought. He fell. His wife, she came and she sat by his side, wiping the blood and dirt off his face and saying, congratulations to you, O Wahab. You have sacrificed yourself for Aba Abdullah. Oh, I pray that I also attain this rank of martyrdom. The tradition says at that moment, one of the enemy soldiers, he came and he struck her on her head at that moment, killing her alongside her husband. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين. السلام على